little bit of lag, and I wanted to go ahead and get rid of that. So now we're going to move on to another league with the same deck list here. For anyone who has just turned in the last couple of minutes, I just want to summarize that league. We got a concession from Big Eldrazi, and then we beat Grixis Delver twice, Check Pile, and Pox for that 5-0. So here's the deck list that we just 5-0'd with, and we'll be running back again. I've been very, very happy with it. I don't think there's any changes that I want to make here. So with that, let's just go ahead and jump right back into it. I don't know 100% that like I will finish a whole nother league, but I'll definitely be up for a couple more matches. Nantuko Avatar. This hand is great in the dark, not knowing what my opponent is on. Like, this is the sort of hand that will be very, very good against any sort of fair deck. Nantuko Avatar with a Birds of Paradise avatar. Well, maybe the name Birds of Paradise avatar was already taken. Hey, Tux Dev, thanks for stopping by. Nice to have you. So now I get to play like the awkward game of like, guess what my opponent is on. My opponent led with Ponder, Shuffle Ponder off of Trop. I hope they're not Infect. Infect isn't a great matchup. I kind of just want to wasteland my opponent. Probably during their upkeep, though. Then, like, I can play my Stoneforge Protected with Mom, both off of Vial, not exposing them to counter magic. So I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm not going to do it on my end step in case my opponent is on Infect and they have, like, a crop rotation. Although I am sort of tempted to do it right here, so that if they have something else... Yeah, I'll bite right here before my opponent has the chance to like find a Stifle or something like that. If they have crop rotation, they can still like fetch, float a mana, and then like crop rotation after the Brainstorm to shuffle. So for anyone who's tuned in the last couple of minutes, if you haven't already voted for what bonus stream I'm going to be doing on Thursday, feel free to do so. Last time I checked a few minutes ago, a mono-white toolbox build was winning. We're going to gain a lot of information from this fetch land. Like, if we see another trop, it's probably infect. If we see, like, just other Grixis lands, it's probably either Checkpile or Grixis Delver, and they led on the tropical island, either because their hand was weak or because they wanted to get that wasted if I did have waste. Brainstorming. They tapped the mana to pay for it, and then played the Scalding Tarn before actually casting it, potentially out of respect for Judge's Familiar. Am I going to GP Seattle? No, I'm from Virginia, so the cost of flying to the event plus, like, lodging, food, other travel expenses, and whatnot, ends up being very, very high. So I only tend to go to GPs that are in reasonable driving distance. And it looks like my opponent is going to be on Checkpile. Thought sees me. Let's get a Mother of Runes. Yes, I also physically do not enjoy flying. I'm scared of heights, so, like, plane trips are very physically taxing on me, as well as mentally taxing. Hit me. Please leave P and K. Please leave P and K. Oh, baby. The odds are in our favor this game, chat. Was that an okay top deck? I feel like that was decent, as the children would say. And, like, this is why I'm playing Wingmare right now. Against these, like, fair blue decks that are all over the place, like, Mom Thalia Wingmare is a disgusting, disgusting curve. And there's just, like, very few to no outs to this for my opponent. The 3-mana Brainstorm. The best of all brainstorms. Yeah, D&T historically has done pretty well on the Grand Prix circuit. That is certainly true, you know. What? Anna Voldsen wrecked one, and oh wow, just totally blanking on one of my friends' names at the moment. That's terrible. I interviewed him, Andrew. Wow, totally just forgetting. Someone in the chat will help me out. Calderon, yes, thank you, Andrew Calderon. So my opponent could have like a Toxic Deluge here, which would do a lot of work. Yep, but not as much as they need. So this puts in P and K. P and K gets some Thopters. And I think I just want to like throw my Ether Vial at them, put them to 6, and then attack for 4 and throw a Thopter at them. Choose you. Pay all this. Sack a Vial. Yeah. Alright, so we're playing against Check File. We're on the draw, and we win against Nantuko Avatar, whose avatar is the Bird of Paradise. So game 1 win with P and K throwing 4 damage. And like this is one of the big reasons I'm splashing red-white right now. I forget who asked about it, but you know, someone was like, "Why are you playing red right now?" You know, I know you really like the Crusader build as well. The reach that P and K gives you against some of these control decks of the current moment, like Check Pile and Miracles, is really absurd. And when you get to start like bouncing with Caracas as well, it's just all sorts of shenanigans. So against this deck, I cut my Swords to Plowshares. There aren't any good targets. Revoker stops Jace or other Planeswalkers as well as Deathrite Shaman, but it's not really reliable. And then with this build, last time around when I was sideboarding, it was the question of, like, is the next Wingmare better or is the next Flicker Wisp better? Chat, I'm going to leave this here. If you have any thoughts about that, like, do I board out Wingmare or do I board out Flicker Wisp? Feel free to say so in the comments now. Yeah, the average Grand Prix player is not good at whatever format the Grand Prix is in. Like, it is really easy to just crush day 1 of a Grand Prix if you are a decently good player. And, like, when I played GP New Jersey a couple years back, I had 4 Anthalias, and I got 3 Goblin Guides with Thalia's First Strike because, like, my opponent just did not know Thalia had First Strike. That's the sort of thing that happens there. It's hard to fathom boarding out Wisp against, like, anything. Wisp is really good. The issue with Wisp in this matchup is that, like, sometimes your opponent just kills all your stuff, and then, like, you're just playing Flicker Wisp as a naked 3/1 flyer. I think Wisp versus Wingmare is very, very close. I don't remember what I did last time. I don't particularly think it matters either way. I think I might do, like, keep the Wisp in on the draw, but, like, board the Wingmare on the play. I think I conceptually like that quite a bit. This hand's awkward. I'm going to keep it since it has double Mom and a Wasteland. But, like, I'm definitely hurting for another white source here. If I get the other white source, then I, like, go Recruiter into Flickerous Chains forever. Hey, we got it. Hand's pretty good now. I'm terrified of going to a Legacy GP, having no buys, and dropping matches to random stuff, like Belcher in the first few rounds. Oh yeah, that happens. Like, a ton of times when I'm playing at, like, Opens or something, like, I just get paired against, like, Blue-White Stoneblade and Belcher and Oops in the first couple of rounds, and it's just like, okay, I guess I'm fighting out of the shit bracket again this tournament. And that happens, but, like, for those of you that have been watching my stream for a while, like, when you just play against the decks that you expect to beat with D&T, like, you do absurdly well. Like, you know, when the room is full of like Check Pile and Grixis Delver and stuff that you're really looking to beat, life's good. I got beaten by Cheerios at a Legacy side event. Guy didn't have sleeves or a sideboard. That person might have actually been like a pro. They just show up, and not only are they trying to tilt you by playing Cheerios, they're trying to tilt you by making you think that they are just like this person who like wandered up to the Legacy event. And that's the next level play. I lost a food chain at Eternal Weekend. I think I did too. Wait, or was that the year before? It might have been the year before, and I lost to like Ely Cassis on food chain or something like that. Or maybe that wasn't open. Alright, opponent hymns me taking a Flicker Wisp and a Mom. That's not the end of the world. There's no lands in the graveyard, so I don't actually want to wasteland my opponent. So I think I'm just going to go ahead and play out a Plateau and pass. I'm not going to, like, fetch here either. How good is Pakula now with chains? Pakula is just another name for, like, Dead Guy Ale, right? Like the white-black Stoneblade deck. Is that correct? Yeah, I don't... There are very few times when I think Dead Guy Ale is a good choice to play in an event. And I don't mean that in like a mean way or anything like that, but like I think you need to have a very good reason for why you want to register Dead Guy Ale for an event. And I don't think Dead Guy Ale is the sort of deck that really gives you that reason. Yeah, see, like Basic Plains, that's what always confused me, is like I hear Pakula and I think Chris Pakula, I think Meddling Mage. That's where I am as well in that situation. I have a lot of lines this turn. I think I want to just like put a Flicker Wisp in play and threaten to kill this Jace unless my opponent ticks up. But that's not a very value-oriented play. I think it's what I'm doing. It's just not great. I need to get this Jace off the board before it kind of wrecks me. And so I like the potential of like Flicker Wisp, swing in for 3, take the Jace back down to 2, and then like follow up with like a Stoneforge play to get Sword of Fire and Ice and potentially like seal the deal there. Alternatively, I can just take the time off to get like P and K and just flop that into play and make my opponent deal with it. But I think I'd rather do that once I have Caracas. No, I don't want to wasteland my opponent. I need my lands right now. And there's no lands in the graveyard for Deathrite Shaman. So that would actually be, like, just leaving them at mana parity. Yeah, so it's not like Dead Guy Ale is an unplayable deck, but I just don't think it's particularly better than other options. Like, it lacks the selection of a blue-white Stoneblade deck, it lacks the strong mana denial of D&T, as well as the uncounterability of the spells. I also don't like Dead Guy Ale's top decks in the late game. In the first couple of turns of the game, you have a ton more percentage points against combo with like your Pinpoint Disruption and Hymn to Rocks if you're playing those. But then end game, when you start drawing those instead of bombs, it feels real bad. Sure, like the opponent has a lot of lines involving like Jace, bounce, and have removal spells. And it's fine if that is the case. Vindicate and Four Wasteland seems like a lot to handle. Sure, but compare that to D&T, where you have Thalia, Waste, Port, potentially Magus as well. Vryn Wingmare. Like, there's a lot more mana disruption in D&T. Sorry, I had to take a moment to figure out what I wanted to recruit her for. And I think the answer is Magus of the Moon. I know I put one land in the graveyard for Deathrite Shaman purposes, but my opponent has no basic lands and has one chance to eat something with a Deathrite as of right now, and I think I like the possibility of just, like, effectively closing the door on this game with a Magus at some point. Would I consider putting Imperial Recruiter in the deck in addition to the Recruiters of the Guards? No, absolutely not. Recruiter of the Guard fetches Flicker Wisp, which is a huge deal. Like, when you get to, like, Recruiter, get Flicker Wisp, Recruiter, get Flicker Wisp, that's absurd. And, like, it has that army in a can potential when everything goes right. Was it this opponent who fetched the Swamp in the previous game? Do I know that this opponent has basics or not, chat? That is a really good deluge. Okay, they did have a Swamp last game. I think we're close to dead. I don't. Like, I'm going to play this Magus, forcing my opponent to, like, do a discard spell right now, or just, like, force them to Jace bounce it so they can use any of their spells. And what my opponent's long pause right now is telling me is that, like, they might have... Alright, never mind. I'm tired of seeing Jace the Mind Sculptor in every other stream. In every single stream. Yeah, because now we can do it in both Modern and Legacy. So, get used to it. Seems like my opponent's going to decay this Magus, which is fine. So on my next turn, I get to like cast Stoneforge, get Sword of Fire and Ice, cast Sword of Fire and Ice, and then every following card is very, very live to take over the game. Yeah, I agree. Like, you're gonna see Jace everywhere as people are excited and start trying it out, but like slowly it will start dissipating a little bit. And like now I have this Stoneforge to blank the Deathrite from attacking in. Me getting Sword of Fire and Ice in play and starting to like go to town is pretty insane. Alright. So it looks like my opponent is just going to go for the tempo game plan. Nope. Alright. Interesting. Kind of surprised I didn't just see like Stoneforge bounce, attack in for 6 damage there. Alright, Mama's a decent draw. So I can go Stoneforge, equip, and then I have to decide how I want to play out this game. I can just try to stabilize the board. I can start going after their threats and giving them cards. I can just like try to eliminate the Jace, because I can take out the Jace in, what, 3 hits? So I hit it for 3, it goes to 3, he pluses to 5, I hit it to 2, no, alright, the Jace is going to take a while to kill. I think I give my opponent some cards and get the board under control. I'm more likely to die to the random beats that my opponent has than I am to the Jace. Yeah, like, our opponent very likely has a removal spell, given the lines that they've been taking. A Culligan's Command would be the worst of it, though. I probably can't beat that. Discard a card, deal 2 damage to target creature or player. Interesting. Yeah, not much I can do about that. Like, if my opponent was going to take that line, then, like, 100% they should have, like, in my upkeep, killed this, or excuse me, in my draw step, kill the Stoneforge and get the card in my hand. because, like, then I can't win. So when they gave me the opportunity to, like, equip and go to my main phase, that made me think either they weren't playing optimally, or I just have the, like, or they don't have it. Alright. I will just concede to that. That's fine. Alright. So for that one, I was on the draw, and I lost. Oop, what did I do there? Where's my undo button? Undo. Okay, there we go. Game 2. We really lost that one to Deluge. The Jace happened to seal the deal, but, like, Deluge for 3 of my cards really hurt there, especially when one of those was the Mother of Runes that was kind of the glue holding together my game. And now that I'm on the play, I think I'm going to go ahead and make that swap I talked about before of Wingmare and Flicker Wisp. So Fizzler, it's funny that you mentioned that. A couple streams back, I actually played against a check pile deck that had Bloodbraid Elf in it. Hand's great. Again, here's that progression I was talking about of, like, getting to Curve Dahlia into Wingmare. It's very, very good. And the local check pile players on 2 Bloodbraid Elf. Yeah, so right now Legacy is kind of turning into this, how to put it kindly. I'm just gonna say it. Like, it's kind of turning into this mid-range clusterfuck where everyone is trying to outvalue each other, and so, like, we're getting all these Delver decks that are going and like, playing things like a Braid and True Name in the main. And then so the, like, control and mid-range decks are having to go above the Delver decks. And so, like, more and more we're seeing Legacy slowing down and kind of becoming more and more fair. Largely due to the influence of Deathrite Shaman. Like, it's just enabling everyone to play, like, these super multicolored, very greedy decks with a lot of mid-range stuff. Yeah, there are a lot of issues with Kess in real life versus Moto. The warping of the foils on Kess is really bad, and also Moto is bugged, and for Kess you can cast cards on your opponent's turn as well as your turn, from what I've heard, whereas you can't do that in real life. Kess confirmed busted on Moto, unplayable IRL. So, sort of interesting there, my opponent got a second Underground Sea, which might be indicative of them being scared of a Wasteland, or it might be indicative of, like, they have some cards like True Name or Hymn to Torok that, like, they just need the double mana for. I'm actually very glad to draw the Wasteland here, because I don't have to make a choice about this Windswept Heath yet. Yeah, like I think the only way that fetch makes sense is if they are very, very intensive on colored mana. Wow. Very intensive on black mana, it seems. Fatal Push the Wingmare, sure. Phyrexian Obliterator, calling it now. I kind of want to get this Vial in play. That way when my opponent removes the Thalia, I can just, like, slam a Cataclysm. Yeah, I'm gonna Vial Port. I don't want to Wasteland, not because of the Deathrite Shaman, but more accurately because of my Cataclysm. Like, I want to play Cataclysm and follow up with Rashadan Port, so that I have, like, Plateau, Vial, Port to my opponent's land Deathrite Shaman. And this is, like, going exactly like I want it to. Like, my opponent is going to Snapcaster target Fatal Push, use their Deathrite Shaman and Underground Sea to Fatal Push my Thalia, and then, like, it's just playing out exactly like I want. Yeah, we dodged the Thoughtseize, which was awesome. Alright, so now that I drew that Plains, I'm actually going to keep my Wasteland and force my opponent to keep us the Swamp, rather than have real colored mana. So it might not look like we have a lot going on right now, but the fact that I can deploy my spells and my opponent is very limited in their ability to deploy their spells is pretty huge. Since my opponent very aggressively fetched underground seas as well, there is some possibility that some of my opponent's fetch lands won't get the color they want. It's a question of whether my opponent is on 2 or 3 underground seas in their exact deck list. Doesn't particularly matter which one of these I port, because without a third land, my opponent probably isn't playing a card that matters very much anyway. Leovold, sure. The second Cataclysm is not nearly as good as the first. Yeah, like, my opponent can K-command since they have the Deathrite Shaman anyway, so that doesn't really matter. Like, that's essentially an irrelevant factoid. So now we're essentially trying to draw to 2 more lands before my opponent bleeds us out, so that we can stabilize with the Batterskull. Alright, Lily is annoying, not unbeatable. Alright. It's a weird spot. I might actually just chump block with my Magus and then Cataclysm a second time. That would leave my opponent with, like, either Leovold and 1 land or Deathrite in 1 land, and then just try to beat them with Vile. But it's much better if I wait a couple of turns. Like, if I hit 1 land and then, like, I Batterskull and then Batterskull Cataclysm, that's much, much better for me. But the second Deathrite Shaman might make me change my mind here. Interesting attack. I want to think about what I'm going to do here for a minute. If I Cataclysm, it leaves my opponent with... I'll be at 15, and then I have 5 turns to find something that beats or checks the Leovold. And actually, if I Cataclysm, I can just probably time my opponent out. They have 3 minutes left on their clock. So that's a real concern as well. But my opponent probably can't beat the Batterskull if I just play that. Clock aggro plan. I think clock aggro plan is a really good plan. I think I'm going to take that line. Man, that is just gravy for me. I don't think my opponent should keep the swamp. And the good news is that, like, since we drew the Mom, we already have something that beats the Leovold. And now we have double things that beat the Leovold. So not keeping the Caracas was a misplay. I was thinking that, like, I could potentially draw a second Caracas, which I did, but I wasn't thinking about, like, just bouncing Leovold. Which I should have done. Like, I absolutely should have kept the Caracas. So, like, the reason I wasn't thinking too actively about that was because I had the Mother of Runes in hand, which already checked the Leovold. Alright. This should probably name Aether Vial. Although, like, I can see an argument for Mom. Oh no, Caracas, and they're just gonna try to win with Leovold in that way. Sure. Do you have a removal spell for Mom too right now? Sorry, I have to look and see what they did with that Ponder. I don't have it up. They chose not to shuffle. So that probably means land. And I'm not going to attack in with this Mom. I'm not going to expose it to removal yet. Okay. That's kind of tilting. Oh well. This is decent, right? Okay, so actually, I guess I should vial in the Recruiter. Him me. You can get that Batter Skull. It's been there all game. I'm gonna go ahead and take this hit. Ah, the ever-vigilant Leovold. I see. So I have my opponent dead like a billion different ways here. I can just swing in with everything and that's lethal, but we're not here to just do lethal. We want to do more than lethal. My opponent says, thanks for the game, and I respond, GG. Alright, so we're on the play for that game and we win. We win with double Cataclysm. So, a lot of people ask me about, like, Cataclysm versus Gideon. Kind of one thing that you have to think about when you're playing Cataclysm is that it's not always a card that just wins you the game. Like, both Cataclysms were very good that game, but neither one of them was just game-winning good. You still have to play on after you Cataclysm. And that's something you have to keep in mind. And sometimes you have to wiggle into the right spot where you can cast it and be okay. Like, it sometimes makes things really, really awkward. Like, you have to keep the wrong land, or, like, cards like the Batterskull just get stranded in your hand. But that's kind of one of those things that you have to accept for the power of just being able to remove planeswalkers and sweep tons and tons of lands off the table. Alright, I'm going to take 2 seconds to just stretch and get the blood flowing before we go into match 7 of the night. Alright, I'm back, chat. Let's get back in it. We ended up winning. So our matches were against Big Eldrazi, Grixis Delver, Check Pile, Pox, and Grixis Delver again for the 5-0. Yeah, unfortunately, the matches against Lewis weren't, like, the most interesting in the world. Like, he scooped really early in Game 1 and Game 3. Game 2 is really interesting, though. Game 2 was nice. It was a bit of a roller coaster. Yes, quote, match against Big Eldrazi. Would like to play first. This hand looks great. No data on my opponent, so I'll just keep a solid hand. And we have 3 uncounterable humans for our Vial. Or not our Vial, our Cavern, excuse me. Oh, man. We're just getting fucking Belchered before we can Thalia. Oh, no, sorry, we're getting oopsed. Alright, I'm just gonna see if there's anything not stock here. Alright, so my opponent is going for the Underworld Cerberus Lab Maniac kill. So I'm just going to talk the chat through this for everyone who doesn't know how this works. My opponent shits a bunch of Narcomoebas into play, and then they use those to go and dread return an Underworld Cerberus. And then they go, or actually, I'm going to turn off auto yields. And then they're going to go and kill the Underworld Cerberus with, like, a Cabal Therapy, for example. And then they're going to sack the Underworld Cerberus to get back all of their guys. And they'll play a... where is he? A Laboratory Maniac and draw a card to win the game. Yeah, I'm very dead. I actually think I want to concede the game rather than show my opponent the plateau. I know the plateau itself... Actually, does the plateau matter? I'm not going to keep any of the plateau cards against them. So I think I am actually fine showing them that. Yeah. So, like, sometimes you just play against decks like this where you can't win. And that's okay. We will try again next game. It is possible that my opponent will play a more like Empty the Warrens or Belcher-based sideboard, post-sideboard games. I mean, OP can still mess up. Yeah, that is technically true. It's not that many clicks, though. So, like, I just let it happen for the sake of, like, you all being able to see what happens. Okay, so there's something weird that can happen when your opponent is playing oops, and that is, like, they might sideboard into something that isn't just oops. But you have to board for oops. So, like, your opponent can randomly just, like, play some Empty the Warrens or something like that to potentially get you. And he's eating his clock for game 2. Yeah, like, in order to beat turn 1 decks, you have to play things like Mindbreak Trap that are relatively bad cards. Alright, so we're going to cut our P and K, and we're going to cut our Maguses. Those cards are garbage. This sort of Fire and Ice is really, really slow. there's this awkward tension between Stoneforge being good if your opponent is playing Empty the Warrens versus like it just being totally unplayable. But we can go ahead and cut our Swords to Plowshares first. It's really hard to wiggle into a spot where you actually get to like Swords to Plowshares a Wild Cantor or like a not Wall of Roots. Oh god, what's the 1-mana green guy called that you sack for red? Tinderwall. It's rare that gets to happen. But like maybe a rare is fine if we're not gonna win anyway. So maybe like I trim the Jitte and I trim some number of Stoneforges to just like keep these on the off chance that they actually get to do something. It's not good. Actually, Flicker Wisp is probably just worse. Flicker Wisp is like way too slow to matter in this matchup. So that might be better. Oh, I forgot the Containment Priest. Thank you. Good catch. Something like this is fine. Mom's pretty bad too. Most of our deck's pretty bad. Like we're gonna lose this match. Who would like to play first? Sand's great. This is as good as it gets. But we're probably dead. I forgot about that Yu-Gi-Oh card in your sideboard too. Yeah, that is what it is. I hate that art. I'm sure you've been here before when I talked about it, but I bought the deck using Card Hoarder's Cart Optimizer to save me money, but the Cart Optimizer doesn't like care about which art you like. It just gives you the cheapest stuff, and so I ended up with like Selfie Thalias and the Yu-Gi-Oh Containment Priest. Alright, opponent had a hand that they didn't know what was in it. Like, they had 3 redraws in there. Alright, looks like we're probably dead. Oh, maybe not. There's hope. Still hope. Opponent has had 5 redraws and has done nothing of real substance so far. 6 redraws. That doesn't look good. That also doesn't look good. We're dead, chat. So my opponent just resubmitted the same 75 that they had in game 1, it looks like. Okay, no, because they only had 2 Narcomoebas, so they made some changes. Well, both teams played hard. Yes. That is correct. I'm just gonna like double check to make sure my opponent has all the pieces of the kill. My opponent used a bunch of Spirit Guides already. How many are in exile? 4 are in exile? I think that's still enough. Yeah, because they get Spirit Guide, Tinderwall. Wait, does my opponent have to pass the turn here? Do they have a way to draw a card? They exiled the... Or no, they got the Street Wraith back. There we go. Yeah, so like that was a time where if I had a plow, I would have had that turn 1 interaction I needed. Oh, so I just forgot to take notes on this one because it was so quick. All right. So who is that? Ian Marsh. Game 1, get turn 2. Game 2, get turn 1. Alright. Back in we go. No worries. You can't get mad about those. So Negator, if that's how my opponent's boarding, like my opponents are going to board with oops, if that sort of thing is stock, then maybe I go and I bring in the paths as well. I don't think I cast anything in game 1, right? Or did I cast a mom that didn't matter? Yeah. I did not do anything relevant that entire match. Other than that one, our matchups tonight have all been good. Like, the rest of the matchups have been Big Eldrazi, Grixis Delver, check pile, Pox, Grixis Delver, check pile. So, like, everything else has been positive. Exactly. That gives me 7 turn 1 outs. Yeah. It's... With how infrequently this matchup is played, there's not a ton of data out there on what you should do. Do I think check pile's positive? Yes, and I have data to support it. Without looking, I'm something like 12 or 13-5 against check pile with the red-white build. It is a very positive matchup. So that trap thing is terrible. Mindbreak Trap? Yeah, Mindbreak Trap is not a good sideboard card. Malamujo was running it in his sideboard, and I asked them about it, and they said, yeah, I got tilted because I played against Belcher 2 leagues in a row, so I put it in the sideboard, but I don't actually think they're good. Mindbreak Trap is a card that gets boarded in against very, very few matchups, so it's not actually a good use of a sideboard card. It's a very powerful card against, like, Tess, Ant, Belcher, and Oops, but basically unplayable against the rest of the format. Is your personal win rate against it higher than your general win rate? Not a math wizard. Yeah, so my win rate against check pile is something like 72%. And my normal win rate is in the 60s, so definitely. Hey, it's Malamujo again. My opponent has been on D&T. This isn't an amazing hand against D&T, since my mana's disruptible. I'm going to go ahead and ignore my Magus here and just fetch a basic Plains. Yep, still on D&T. Alright, my opponent gets their own Revoker. That probably has to name the Jitte. Still leaving me with an active Mother of Runes versus their board. Yep. Yeah, that was a very, very good draw. So now my opponent needs to have a follow-up Revoker or they probably just lose, and you see my opponent just scooping it up right there because they recognize that fact. So almost always when I play this matchup, the words that I write are won the equipment war for usually like 2 out of the 3 games. Because like that's just what wins this matchup, is winning that equipment war. My opponent is playing the mono-white build rather than the red-white, based on my experiences in playing with them. Do I ever side Sword of Light and Shadow? If I'm going to play an extra sword, I usually play Sword of War and Peace. It's historically proven to be very, very good for me. This is the same sort of hand as last time, where it's a little bit awkward, but I have double removal spell and Mom, and my opponent has Mulligan, so I'm going to go ahead and keep here. Would Grizzlebrand be good in the D&T mirror? Tick Vile up to 8? I actually don't think it is good, because you both have Caracas, so although you can draw a bunch of extra cards, like, you know, he can just bounce it. We'd have to play other 8-drops in order to make Grizzlebrand good, I think. Bring back Sword of Body and Mind. Alright. So I actually did play that at competitive REL for like a 2-week period when Reed Duke's crazy like True Name deck was running around. Do I want to Wasteland my opponent this turn? Kind of want to Wasteland and Swords and just leave them unlimited resources. Alesh Norn is likely just better. I'd love to rip a 2-drop here to play. No such luck. Avenger is great. And it's unfortunate that this gives them another land, but I just want to get that off of the board now so that I can tap out for a 3-drop on my turn. And I'm going to play Scared. The Jitte advantage matters so much that I don't just want to like jam the Mirror Crusader and try to go aggro when my opponent can just like play something big and dumb. Alright, and Elspeth is very, very annoying. So I'm going to shut off the Jitte so that I don't die, but then I do have to worry about the Elspeth just getting out of control. Rough. Alright, we're dead. So I think I want to trade the Recruiter here so that my opponent can't get another attack with Jitte on the following turn. Is that better than Gideon ally of Zendikar? No, I don't think so. And I'm getting the Relic Order here because it works how I want it to, not how my opponent wants it to, as far as like trying to remove it in response. And this also leaves a Recruiter in my deck so that I can recruit her and get rid of the Elspeth later. Alright, that might just get a Flicker Wisp, and Flicker Wisp the Recruiter to get another Flicker Wisp, yep. So if my opponent was going to do this line, I don't know why they didn't just, like, jump the Soldier and bash in. Alright, now they get a Stoneforge. I'll play these out because I want them in play to be P and K fodder in case the game comes to that. I'm going to have about a one-turn window here to do something that matters. Otherwise, like, whatever piece of equipment my opponent gets is going to take over this game, and the Elspeth is going to just ultimate on the next turn, potentially, to make all their stuff indestructible, and I probably just can't beat that emblem. It's -8, right? Yeah. Ooh, and follow-up Stoneforge. That is rough. So that's both Sword of Fire and Ice and Batterskull just around the corner. I'm going to play on for some information, but I just expect that I'm dead here. Yeah, so I just can't beat that emblem since my opponent emblemed. And that's really what I wanted to see. I just wanted to know if they would emblem. But, like, now my opponent gets to put, like, Sword of Fire and Ice in, put Sword of Fire and Ice on Flicker Wisp, and, like, just start crashing in. Oh, no, just on a token. Alright. So, I guess the hypothetical world where I still win this game involves me drawing a Caracas and just, like, P and K creating an infinite-sized army forever. You were dead, but you were dead when you were paired against Malamujo. Malamujo is a really, really good player. I don't know that I agree with a lot of the deck building decisions, but I will not knock the play skill at all. Is your Jitte gone? I have my opponent's Jitte under a Leon Relic Order. Yeah, I was wondering how long it was going to take for that to happen. Oh, no. Come on. There we go. Alright, that should leave me with 0 outs now. I'm just gonna take the draw step, make sure I'm not wrong. Yeah, okay. Fling vials in defiance. Strong line. Game 2, loss to Elspeth Emblem after stabilizing board. This is an acceptable but not exciting hand. It's really hard to throw back a hand that has a Stoneforge Mystic in this matchup, more or less no matter how bad the rest of the hand is. This is not a hand where we really have the luxury of playing around Wasteland, since like our other mana source is already Wastelandable. So I'm going to go ahead and just fetch the Plateau here. Like, when you're already going to lose to Wasteland, it doesn't make a lot of sense to play around it. Ooh, the opponent did not have the Swords to Plowshares here. They do have a Mom. And I think I'm taking a turn off to just plow the Mom. That does not feel great for tempo reasons, but it's happening. So I'm going to do something a little weird right here, and I think I need another land, and I think I'm just going to path to exile my own Stoneforge Mystic here. I have a good number of my mono white deck lists posted over on Thraben University if you want to check them out. I tend to go Crusader heavy in my mono white builds. Oh geez, double Wasteland. There's that Elspeth again, being really annoying. I'd love to rip the land here to like get my own Jisse online. I love when Path My Own Dude happens. Yeah, like, it doesn't feel great, but it was something that I 100% needed to do. And when we look at the board in its current state, you know, if I had not have pathed my own guy, my opponent would have like wastelanded me off both of my lands on a previous turn, and I'd be out. So now all I need to do is dodge a spot removal spell for this turn, and I'm in decent shape from here. If my opponent has a spot removal spell this turn, and then like they have 4 mana left to just like go Jitte and equip, I'm probably just done. Alright, my opponent has their own mom. And a Pithing Needle, which will probably just go on mom. Or it might go on my Jitte that I have in hand, actually. We'll see. It depends on how much they value the Elspeth. Yep. Oh yes, very, very awkward. So now all I need to do is rip a land, and I get to revoke my opponent's Elspeth and take over this game. We're having opposite problems right now. Although my opponent having more lands means I get to do things, and this recruiter will probably just get a Stoneforge Mystic, and the equipment will... No, just going for a Flicker Wisp. Sure, people say screw beats flood, and that's a nice mantra, but, like, I can't do anything with the 5 cards in my hand, and my opponent gets to cast any spell that they play, that they draw. And since they drew Recruiter, that just gets them a stream of cards. So I don't think that's actually true here. Yeah, I was afraid of this. So now that gets to go in my Ether Vial, and I'm just kind of really behind even more now. Because my opponent has an active Mother of Runes now, in addition to everything else that was going on. While I can still get through this, it's just rough. Do you kind of wish you fetched basic lanes right now instead of the plateau? No. I think that decision was correct. Just because it didn't work out doesn't mean the play was wrong. I was in the position where a single wasteland was going to cripple me, and so keeping that in mind, I fetched for a non-basic. Yeah, in many ways, our draw didn't line up well. Like we missed a couple of critical opportunities to draw a land and take over the game, which was unfortunate. But my opponent's list has a more stable mana base than mine does, and like that was capitalized upon this game. My opponent also drew the Elspeth at sort of the perfect time, and had a very good top deck recruiter. This port doesn't help things either. Very unfortunate that my opponent didn't make the mistake of attacking with the Revoker, now that I can potentially have Swords to Plowshares. And we're done. And I'm not gonna like Swords my own guy to live one more turn here when like I'm that far dead. So like the Elspeth beat us, but the real reason we lost was to missing land drops. Like if I hit another couple of land drops, then like I deploy my Revoker to stop the Elspeth, and I just kind of can get out of hand with everything else that I've got going on. I'm gonna play one more here and then probably call it a night. I'm starting to get tired, and I don't play well when I am tired. Interesting that Malamuja plays D&T now. They've been playing D&T for quite a while. Like it's been a couple of months at this point. This hand's probably a mulligan, but I'll see if I have any data on my opponent. I do not. SVG. I'm gonna go ahead and ship this one on the play. It's very, very close to being good, though. With a second land, this is insane against most of the format. So maybe that's worth keeping. Like, I have 3 1-mana plays. If my opponent is playing any sort of, like, non-combo deck, this might actually be fine. So, I have 24 lands in the deck. I'm going to fetch. I'm going to have 22 outs to hit a land for this hand to be insane. So I initially said I was going to mulligan, but this one is actually closer than I gave it credit for initially. I might actually keep this. So I'm going to have 22 land outs to hit. Vial is an acceptable draw. It doesn't matter what land I hit, just a land. Alright, I've talked myself into it. My opponent mulligans. My opponent just on burn. Tarfire, ladies and gentlemen. Tarfire. My opponent might be on actual factual goblins. I'm going to go ahead and mom and hold up swords here. I didn't give my opponent the opportunity to play something like a goblin lackey. So I'd like to remove that, if at all possible. What the hell is this? Pay 1 life, add red to your mana pool. Red, red 2, sack a desert, it deals 2 damage to each opponent. Okay. And my opponent plays Smuggler's Copter. Alright. Resolves. Yeah, like as you saw, I did not even try to fetch to get that active. I'm gonna try to snipe that that Smuggler Copter there. The Looter Scooter. It's playing mono standard band cards. Okay, my opponent has 2 Smuggler's Copters. I'm snap recruitering for a Revoker given the opportunity. Oh, do I want to waste my opponent or just, like, recruiter for a Revoker now? I probably just want to waste my opponent. Alright. It's possible I should get frisky with this Mother of Runes, but I'm feeling pretty good about my position. Let's not expose myself to anything. When I'm not sure, like 100% sure what my opponent is doing, I tend to err on the side of playing it safe. Like, it looks like goblins, kind of, but there's some weird stuff here. So some people say that, like, hey, why don't you play Smuggler's Copter in D&T? It's like the right sort of card for that deck. This is why. You don't want threats that can be like Revokered and Pithing Needled. It feels so bad. I think I forgot to Violent a Mom there. Alright, my opponent scoops it up. I'm going to go ahead and say that they're playing Goblins in my notes, but I'm not 100% sure. So game one, opponent doesn't do anything. So we'll be on the play for the next one. Well, I have no idea what to make of this game. Yeah, I agree. So I'm gonna try to like figure out how I want to sideboard. Like I have to assume my opponent is on Goblins, I guess, because I saw that Tarfire. So like, I guess this is probably the stuff I want. And, like, maybe there's an argument for Cataclysm, but probably not. So I don't want these Moonmen. And I think I probably don't want P and K, just so, like, I can play around Wasteland and, like, be a mono-white deck. Maybe this Crusader isn't good enough. I was just thinking because it has, like, first strikes, or double strike, that it might be fine, but, like, maybe that's not even good enough. And, like, maybe they don't really have that many good targets for the Relic Warder. Like, it can hit a Vial, but maybe I don't go too bonkers with the Relic Warder here. Like, I think normally in this matchup I would trim some number of Thalias, but like I'm still not 100% sure that my opponent is Goblins because they were all of those. Oh, because of the Looter Scooters, I want this Relic Warder. Yeah, Moxel, I just figured that out as well. Thank you, though, for saying that. Maybe I'll just, like, cut these Wingmares because they don't rumble well with against Looter Scooter. Oh, it's still pretty bad, but, like, it can stop early Goblins. Let's try this. This hand's fine. Like, it has a lot going on. So my opponent has that desert again, so they must be playing multiple. You don't mess around with Goblin Lackey, you just kill it. You don't say, hey, I'll play this Mom and I'll trade with it, and then just get blown out by Gem Palm Incinerator or Tarfire or something like that. You don't let them have that acceleration. And then my next turn I'll get to play both Vial and Mom. And then... Oh, wow. Opponent misses land again. They were very all-in on the Lackey. Goblins. Confirmed Goblins, but why they have all these deserts, unclear. I don't know that... that card is better than basic mountain for stability purposes. Alright. Tarfire me, sure. And like, the life loss of tapping that card for red is also not irrelevant. Alright. My opponent plays a bad magic card. I don't really know what I want a Recruiter for yet. So I don't necessarily want to play Recruiter yet. The answer is probably just Stoneforge Mystic to like try to get a Jitte online. But there might be some weird world where like I need to get something else. I can just play Thalia this turn, hold up Caracas. If my opponent deals with Thalia to like go aggro and get in, and now they won't do that because I have the Caracas up. I guess I can Recruiter for Stoneforge, and then plan on just trying to take over the game with Jitte. I can also just port them. But if I hold up port, they'll just like pay the Echo on War Marshal as to like not effectively get time walked. I'm gonna go ahead and Thalia and just hold the ground. That's actually a decent draw because it means that I can Recruiter for Stoneforge while still holding up Caracas to protect Thalia and have Jitte equip open the next turn. This is one of the matchups that got noticeably worse by removing the Serra Avengers from the deck. Serra Avenger was very, very important here. Okay, I don't really care about a pile driver. So, like, just to talk about this Ramunap Ruins a little bit more. Like, if my opponent's just playing a bunch of those, then they're probably not playing, like, fetch lands or anything like that. And that means that their abilities to splash for sideboard cards is decreased. So my opponent might not have some random things that should be in the deck, like, say, Tuk Tuk Scrapper. And since I have a bunch of Thalias, I'm just going to go ahead and leave this at 2 for the time being, until I get a good reason to switch. Opponent is thinking about something. About the only thing they could possibly cast is a Pyrokinesis. Alright, opponent, do you have Pyrokinesis? If so, you get the 3 for 1. If not, this game's probably over. Alright, there is the Pyrokinesis. And I'm just going to go ahead and pass without putting the Thalia into play. I'll put it into play mid-combat and see if I can, like, snag this Goblin Chieftain in combat. I'm going to go ahead and take out the Goblin Chieftain here, even though it really stings to take this hit. Alright, Smuggler's Copter is pretty good here. Again, not gonna take up yet. I'm gonna go ahead and remove the pile driver now so that my opponent can't use it to crew their Smuggler's Copter. And then I'm going to deploy double Mother of Runes and leave up the possibility of playing in Ambush Viper Thalia. I wonder if my opponent just clicked too quickly, because I feel like the smuggler's copter attack this turn might have been important. Okay, so they just want to stabilize the board. I see. Still, we'll say no to that until we have a good reason to tick up. So I expect my opponent to animate Smuggler's Copter and block the Thalia, at which point I'll just like go to first strike damage and kill the Copter. That is what I expect my opponent to do, not because it is good, but because it is what I think they have to do. Like, they just have to make me see the lines because they're in such a bad spot. So it's sort of interesting that I haven't seen any vials from my opponent, or anything like, what is it, Goblin Ringleader? I wonder if my opponent is on, like, a really weird build of goblins. Because, like, to not see any of, like, some of the most iconic cards from the deck over this many games is a little odd. Alright, that's Pile Driver. Doesn't have Trample, though, so Mom brick walls it. Maybe super budget build? Maybe. Am I fine with taking 4? Or do I just want to, like, throw away a creature? Oh, I fucked up. I should have just, like, piled in Thalia 2, block Chieftain, and then take less damage. Given that I fucked up, this is fine. I'll take the 4. Go to 4. Sorry, I was thinking through what I wanted to do there. So I'm going to go ahead and just kill this pile driver before it attacks. I think we've got this one locked up at this point. A Goblin Rabble Master. Sure. So since this Goblin Rabble Master forces my opponent's creatures to attack, I'm probably not going to remove it with my Jitte counters. Sure. And so now my opponent is going to make a token with Goblin Rabble Master that's going to have to attack into my Battered Skull. So that's sweet. Alright, and we're very, very much presenting lethal here. Opponent can't Pyrokinesis because they don't have a second card in hand. And that's that. Alright, win. So, game 2, win by stabilizing board and letting Jitte take over. Alright, folks, I have a few more things I want to say, but if you want to vote for the bonus stream deck that I'm going to do, this is your last opportunity to go ahead and do so. The link is below the stream in the follower goals panel. I'm going to wait about 1 more minute, and then I'm going to check the results of that, and based on whatever's there, that will be the mono white deck list that I will go ahead and play on Thursday for my bonus stream. So we started off with a 5-0 league, and we're at a mediocre 2-2 league right now. So this second league was wins against Check Pile and Goblins, lost to Oops All Spells and D&T. The Oops All Spells matchup, we're not winning that. The D&T matchup, a couple of things didn't break our way, and that's okay, like, that happens. Can I show the list? Yes, absolutely. So this is what we ran today. I was pretty happy with it overall. I've been playing something approximating this since December. I've been playing this exact build for about a week now, and otherwise it's just kind of this one flex slot right here, this third Vren Wingmare that I've been swapping on and off between other things. It's worked out pretty well. I feel like I have a lot of tools, and I very rarely feel like I have like the wrong number of sideboard cards. I always feel like I'm within about 1 card of where I need to be with this shell. There are certain things I don't have access to that I would kind of like Council's Judgment, but it's a little rough on the red-white mana base. And I've been trying to stick to cards that are easy to cast, with the exception of a few very powerful cards at 4 mana. Alright, folks, taking a look at the results here, it looks like 38% of you want a toolbox build with a lot of singletons. So I will put together some sort of shenanigans list for you that has a lot of different utility. A lot of my mono white decks, you know, it's a lot of the same thing, whether it's that build or this build, or even when you go to like the 4X Crusader build, there's not a lot of variety. So I'll find a bunch of good singletons, and we'll play a sort of Recruiter of the Guard toolbox D&T list on Thursday. Ooh, we have a couple of questions from the chat. Do I miss Prelate at all? No. Let's go back to the red-white list for a second. So the work that I'm going to move this Batterskull here just so I can drag some cards out. The work that Prelate was doing is sort of replaced by these 5 cards. For a lot of your combo matchups, playing another Vren Wingmare is almost as good as playing a Prelate if you already have Thalia out. And against the control matchups, like this Wingmare is just probably going to be better than Prelate a lot of the time. And in some matchups, you want Sanctum Prelate as this like game-winning, I slam it and you're done card. Well, Magus plays that same role. So, don't like Jailer? Jailer's fine, but I noticed that I kept sideboarding Jailer out like very, very consistently because it's such a risky card. And against like Miracles, Check, Pile, Delver, which are 3 super popular decks, I don't like it. And I think it's really risky in the mirror too. So I'm okay not having access to that card. Where's Sword of War and Peace, lol? Sword of War and Peace is right on the cusp. of making it into this deck list. If I had one more sideboard card, it would probably be that. Resto wasn't working out. Resto was fine, but I'm trying that other Wingmare in this spot, and I haven't been disappointed by it. Resto did some neat things, but it wasn't necessarily game winning all of the time. It was very good on a few occasions, but there were other times where it just kind of got stuck. So I'm just kind of opting for consistency in this build. Alright, folks, if you have any other questions, feel free to throw them in the chat, but I'm going to go ahead and shut things down for the night. Again, I'm Phil Gallagher. If you aren't following me already and you enjoyed this content, please do. Thank you for my new subscribers and resubscriptions tonight. I really do appreciate that, and I hope you have a good evening. I will see you again on Wednesday at somewhere between 6 and 7 p.m. Eastern, and again on Thursday for our bonus stream. Take care.